everyone, welcome to Married with Wrestling. I'm Susan, and this is Chris, and we are going to talk about wrestling and the WWE, AEW, and NXT land over the past week.
Yeah, and we've missed a few episodes. We took off last week for Saudi week. The first time we've taken a week completely off from professional wrestling in years. It was Halloween week, and we were just like, you know what? We're feeling Halloween, not really feeling wrestling this week. So we watched Halloween Havoc on Sunday from NXT, and then we took the week off from wrestling. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I feel like last week we missed a bunch of stuff that happened, and this week when we tuned back in, there wasn't much that happened at all.
Yeah.
There were things that happened. There was a couple big, significant things that happened that we'll go into. But it's just funny, because we always talk about how, we feel like we would miss a week and not miss anything, and the weeks that we decide to do that, we miss everything.
Yeah.
So we'll start with WWE. The big story coming out of WWE this week is the original Bloodline family reunion.
Oh, the Bloodline is back to being the first thing we talk about.
Yes. Yeah. It was Cody, but then Cody was there for Kevin Owens' attack on Randy Orton, and then we didn't see him again. So we know where that's leading going to Survivor Series. But it started out with a little bit of tension because Sami accidentally kicked Roman because, it's Triple H. He can't help himself by extending the story a week if he can. I love Triple H's booking, but I too agree sometimes he leaves that pot cooking a little bit too long and things start to get burnt. But this worked out fine because they only extended it 1 week. I was afraid when it first happened it was going to be a whole situation where it was going to be uneasy tensions all the way up to Survivor Series, and I just wasn't in the mood, so I'm glad that they ended it early and just united them heading into their match at War Games. Everybody kind of saw this War Games match coming, but it's still really fun that it actually came to fruition. That's the fun part about WWE these days. One of the fun parts is, yes, it's predictable, but it's predictable because it makes sense, and that's what the story's building to. We no longer have knee-jerk reactions from Vince where, we don't end up with, instead of Sami Zayn being in the Bloodline, we don't end up with, God knows who else would have ended up there. So at least it's consistent. Roman is working on pulling his head out of his own ass, but it's still taking some time, which is good. Roman shouldn't be a complete 180. His character should have to learn and develop and grow as an arc. That's a good way to do it. That's telling a story. That's not doing, Big Show 180-degree heel turns. I think they said he had 22 heel face turns in 20 years. That's insane. Yeah. It's absolutely insane. But I'm excited for the War Games match. It's fun to see the OG Bloodline back together. I'm sure they're going to cash in on some merchandise with this for sure. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. I'm just sitting over here just patiently waiting for the Roman-Jacob Fatu one-on-one match that I hope we get. I think that'd be a great match to do at the Royal Rumble. Maybe they'll do it. I'm not sure. What I am happy about is with Kevin Owens assaulting Randy Orton and Cody being involved with that, the title's nowhere near the Bloodline story, which is great.
Yes.
It's great. It's out of the, what's somebody called the Bloodline Vortex. Like how AEW has the Jericho Vortex. Now it's become the Bloodline Vortex.
Yeah.
Couple other things that WWE teased this week that's really fun. Tommaso Ciampa is losing his patience. For those of us that watched Black and Gold NXT, we know what happens when Tommaso Ciampa loses his patience, especially with Johnny Gargano. Yeah. So if DIY is on the screen and there's a logo, I'm not trusting a damn thing. I don't trust bald Tommaso Ciampa, bald asshole as people call him. They call him something else, but I'm trying to lighten up the language on our podcast a little bit. Because of me. Yeah, it's self-inflicted. It's like the glass ceiling that WWE put in that the women shattered that they installed themselves. But yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for Tommaso Ciampa. Motor City Machine Guns have just come in and just freaking killed it, man. Their matches are fun. Triple H is literally just having a heyday of, it'd be fun to watch him wrestle this team. It'd be fun to watch him wrestle this team. So they've already wrestled DIY, A-Town Down Under, the Bloodline, and next week they're getting the Street Profits. So we're just getting all of our dream matches with Motor City Machine Guns out of the way early. I have no issue with that. I really like watching Motor City Machine Guns. I admit I knew of them, but I hadn't watched much of them because we didn't watch much TNA because I didn't have time to watch TNA with, the 1,500 hours that AEW and WWE insist on putting out every week. But for what I've seen so far, I can see why they're a big deal. They're both really, really great. They're crisp wrestlers. They work really well together. They're good on the mic. Yeah. So I could see why they were so coveted. So it's cool to see them in WWE. And at a time where it seems like, as of right now, we're appreciating tag teams, at least on the SmackDown side. The Raw side, they are doing number one contenders matches to face the Judgment Day, but Judgment Day is defended once in like 6 months. So we're kind of lacking on that side, but we'll get there. There really wasn't much other development with the world titles this week. Gunther and Damian Priest are going to do their thing next week. Damian Priest won a number one contenders match. I kind of figured he would win because all the other options just didn't make sense. Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins didn't feel like a once-off. Dominic's not ready for that point, story-wise. I don't even remember who the other person was in the match now that I'm thinking about it, but that also happened, 6 days ago, because we're filming this on Sunday today. So that was all the development there. But WWE did have one other major development that I've been talking about on this podcast for weeks. NXT kind of first threw the gauntlet for it, and that's a women's mid-card title.
Yes.
So, with the women's U.S. title, who do you think should be the contenders for the women's U.S. title?
I don't really know who they consider mid-card because I don't pay attention to that, I guess, as much as other people.
Yeah.
Chelsea Green would be my first pick. You mentioned Naomi. I think that's a good pick. But I don't know who else is considered mid-card, if I'm being honest.
I'm hoping that the introduction of this title is going to kind of help shake that out for the women because they have... Because
it's just the same people over and over that they use.
It is, and it's... I hate to say this. I do. Because there's a lot of talented wrestlers in the women's tag team division, but it almost seems like it's lower card.
Yeah.
Even with Jade and Bianca as champs, it still feels... Because none of those wrestlers are ever respected as singles wrestlers.
Bianca?
I'm not counting Bianca and Jade. They're the exception. That's why they're the champs for the division. But... I'm interested to see who we have left to contend for that mid-card title outside of who's in the tag division. And I think Raw going back to 3 hours and SmackDown going to 3 hours is going to help. And I also think that since they didn't introduce this title at Raw, unless it was because Raw was in Saudi and it's, promoting women, which we know Saudi doesn't like. So maybe we'll see one debuted on Raw this week. But I kind of feel like, as of right now, it should be a card that goes brand to brand. Or a title that goes brand to brand. Between Raw and SmackDown. They don't need to do that on NXT because NXT has the Women's North American Championship. We don't need to clog up NXT with main roster titles. They have a pretty good disbursement themselves.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if this title will eventually take the place of the women's tag titles. But I don't... I'm thinking not, since WWE main roster is going to be 6 hours of programming every week. I think the tag titles are going to stick around.
Yeah.
Because they go to NXT with them, too. So if they don't have anything on the main roster, they at least have something down there. And with the emergence of, Fatal Influence as a faction, Julia and Stephanie Vaquer kind of teaming up. And Roxanne and Cora, there's room for... There's NXT tag teams that can compete for those titles. That would keep them in place as well. But yeah, that was essentially WWE's week. There wasn't anything wrong with it. It just felt like it was kind of there. I'm ready for War Games. War Games is one of my favorite matches of the year. War Games, the Rumble, Elimination Chamber are my 3 favorite matches in the year. So I'm getting super excited. I can't believe it's already November. WrestleMania is already back to only being 5 months away. Isn't that crazy?
I know. I feel like WrestleMania just happened.
I know. I do too. I feel like WrestleMania is starting to feel like a Wednesday. Like, it just happens every week, and we just can't believe it keeps coming back so frequently.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what WWE's cooking. So why don't we take a look at the competition? So switching gears over to AEW. So AEW's big story right now is Moxley and his crew just killing people.
Death Riders?
The Death Riders, yeah.
I wanted to say Death Eaters.
It's kind of like how people thought Blackpool Combat Club was going to be when they first started.
Yeah.
And then they turned Blackpool Combat Club face, and they just kind of they like to fight people. But now it's Moxley's abusing Wheeler Yuta, but Wheeler Yuta still does what he wants.
Yeah.
This word gets thrown around a lot lately, but it's not quite a cult, but we're on the road that Colt lives on. We're on that street. But it's funny because it only seems to be that way for Wheeler Yuta. Like, everybody else is in on it. Like, Claudio, Pac, Marina Shafir.
He was friends with Orange Cassidy.
That's true, but he hasn't been friends with Orange Cassidy in years. So it's funny. I guess Moxley's like an old girlfriend. He just doesn't forget. But anyway, yeah, we've got Orange Cassidy, and Orange Cassidy's being a little more serious. He's still Orange Cassidy-ish, but he's being more serious. Darby has just come unhinged at this point. Like, Darby's looking at this place that and it makes sense because Darby's promos always focus on how AEW's been good for him.
They let him be him. Let him do his thing. They do let Darby just do his thing.
Yeah, Darby gets to be Darby. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that somebody trying to destroy it sends him off the deep end. And first it's the Elite, and then it's the Death Riders. And I've seen a lot of people talk about how there are similarities in story, and I think I found what separates it. And I think this is kind of what they're going for. It's Tony Khan, so it's hard to tell. It's not Vince level incomprehensible, but he has that fruit fly attention span. But I think the story we're trying to tell is the Elite were mucking up AEW for fun. And Moxley saw that and said, no, this is how you kill everybody in a company.
Yeah, because he mentioned the Elite at first, too. Because he kept saying it was my company.
Yeah, he's like, no, this is how you run things. And the Elite lost to Private Party, which surprised me, honestly. I thought we were going to get a Zay singles run. Yeah. But you know what? Good for Private Party. They're a day one tag team.
I told you that made no sense.
Yeah. I mean, they're a day one.
Mr. Pulse on the trigger. Or pulse on the...
Finger on the pulse.
Finger.
That one I was wrong about. But good for Private Party. Private Party's fun to watch. I remember when we first started watching AEW, Private Party got the stigma of people called them the dollar store Street Profits. And then it came out that Private Party was actually around longer than the Street Profits.
Yeah.
So good for Private Party getting their recognition. We saw a couple of them on the cruise.
You went swimming with
Mark Quinn.
The one not Day.
Yeah. Zay.
What's his name? Zay?
Yeah, not Day. Yeah, they're really nice guys, so it's really well deserved. And it's cool because, it feels fresh. Because the AEW tag team division has been FTR and the Bucks for 70% of it. So Private Party is a nice, fresh choice, and we can have some fresh matchups with that.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what happens with Private Party moving forward. Mm-hmm. But yeah, with this, definitely the main story is the AEW thing, because I feel like, or the Death Riders thing, because I kind of feel like everything else in AEW is just kind of happening.
Well, they have some stories of, like, the younger talent wanting to overthrow the Death Riders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Daniel Garcia is involved in that, and Top Flight, and they're building... I don't know what it's building to, but it's building to something.
It feels very much like the women's storyline that they had going with, like, the originals and then, like, the new people coming in.
Oh, you mean that really interesting story that they had and then just did nothing with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I hope that Jon Moxley has enough creative control that he won't let that happen, that we'll get a decent resolution.
Yeah.
It's building to something, just don't know what. I think the Elite's going to come back to save AEW. I think that's where we're heading. But I think that could have been done better. I think we could have built a little more of the Elite starting to see the error of their ways, and then maybe the Death Riders annihilate them, and that's what makes them go away. So I kind of see where it's going, but I think it could have been executed a little better. I think you could have given the Bucks an arc. I know it's hard to give the Bucks an arc because there's such a population of the wrestling community that just wants to hate the Bucks on principle. So I know it's hard to give them arcs, but we could at least try.
They can't do anything. Mm-hmm. The Bucks can't even, like, take a shit without somebody critiquing it. So, like, and I know I say this every week because it always seems like I'm such a Bucks fan, but, like, I'm not. No. I just don't feel like they deserve all the critique that they get. Yeah,
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. But I can also see the other side where they would rub people the wrong way. I get
it, but, like, those are the same people that worship, like, CM Punk, and it's like CM Punk is literally they're the same people. they're literally the same. They both have huge egos. They think they're always the ones that's in the right. They're the same people.
Yeah, which is probably why things blew up the way they did.
Yes.
But yeah, so it's not that AEW's not, and we, full disclosure, we skipped Collision this week. I just read a recap because Collision is kind of starting to feel like a 2-hour rampage. Like, there's some good stuff on Collision. Like, I love watching Hologram. There is some story progression, but you can tell all the eggs go in the Dynamite basket as far as story progression. That's where everything lives. For a while, Christian Cage's stories developed on Collision, but now he's back to being on Dynamite.
Oh, that was so good to see him again.
Yeah, he told Hook that he wished his dad was dead, so Christian Cage is back to top form, which I don't think he ever left.
I love him so much.
What did you say this week? He's such a treat.
He is.
He is. I really wish we could have met him at Steel City Con. I think it would have been worth it.
Was he at Steel City Con?
He was, but we were in Denver.
There's always
because I offered to move the Denver trip, and you
so
didn't want to move it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he was on point as always, and I love how he's carrying this thing, and he is telling everybody, "I am the next AEW World Champion," but he has gone nowhere near Jon Moxley. And actually, this actually been used really well because they've started to bring back older clips to show why things are happening, which is good because it's giving AEW continuity, which is something that they really, really could benefit from. For example, the Wheeler Yuta stuff they tied it back to, and then with this, they showed Christian Cage running away after Kip Sabian stole the pen, and he ran into Pac and Claudio, which was a funny moment when it aired at that time, but now 3 weeks later, it's become useful and it's advanced Kip Sabian's story.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of Christian and his crew, we're sending our best to Luchasaurus and his medical right now. You met Luchasaurus a few years ago. You said he was a really nice guy.
Yeah, I asked him about Big Brother, and then I felt awkward. But yes, he was like the... I mean, because Alex and Ivory, it was... What were they dressed?
Marco Stunt. The now retired Marco Stunt.
Yeah, so it was him, it was Marco Stunt, Luchasaurus, and then
Jack Perry.
Jungle Boy.
Yeah.
And Luchasaurus was the nicest one out of all of them.
Yeah.
They were all nice, but I think the other two are shy.
Yeah. We're sending our best to Luchasaurus. Hopefully he gets better, and, you and I both are in the camp of, if you can never wrestle again, that's fine. We just want you to be happy and healthy.
Yes. And that being said, I'm all for Kip Sabian kind of not taking his place, but kind of stepping he can't be
getting some benefit.
Yes, because Kip Sabian is probably one of him and Penelope Ford are probably two of the nicest wrestlers that we've ever met, honestly. They are so friendly.
Yeah, him and I talked about the new Flash movie before it came out.
Yeah.
I wonder what he ended up thinking of it.
Well, and I have the same name as his mom.
Yeah.
So, that got him talking. I don't really hear about many other Susans.
No. No.
But they're so basically good for him. I like whatever nice people get airtime.
Yeah.
Get their TV time.
Yeah. That being said, there are some people out there that still aren't getting TV time. I miss Ricky Starks. I wish they would do something with him, but
Wardlow.
Wardlow's kind of gone by the wayside. But on the bright side, Hobbs is back. Hobbs came back to team with Ricochet because Ricochet had a mystery partner. And good on AEW because usually the mystery partner is pretty predictable. WWE is really bad about putting out a mystery partner that you could see from 5 miles away. Like when Kevin Owens' mystery partner was Randy Orton, and it wasn't really that much of a mystery because they've been teaming together for 8 months. Yeah. But Hobbs was a legit surprise. And they actually explained it pretty decently. They said that his contract with the Don Callis family expired, and he felt that they left him behind. That's good. That makes sense. Keep doing that, AEW. Keep making sense, and the people will come back.
Yeah, because actually right before they said that, I was like, but I thought he was with them. And then they said that.
And they explained it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that ended up being a legit surprise. Konosuke Takeshita took another pin. That concerns me a little bit because he's facing Adam Cole next week. Because Adam Cole and Roddy Strong are racing to 3 wins.
He's a champ, right?
And he's the international champion.
Yeah.
So it kind of worries me. And the story's going a different direction than I thought it would because he's Adam Cole's third opponent. I kind of thought MJF would manipulate things to where Roddy would have 2 and Adam Cole would have 2. Because the stip right now is if they both win their 3 matches, it's a triple threat. If they don't, whoever wins their 3 matches gets there. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't do the route of the 3rd match being Cole and Roddy against each other.
Oh.
I kind of thought that's where that was going to
Yeah.
go. But there's also a chance that it ends up a triple threat, which kind of concerns me.
I thought that's what they said it was going to happen.
If they both win 3, which I think they might. Since they threw that out there and Adam Cole's not wrestling Roddy Strong in the 3rd match, unless Roddy's 3rd match is against Cole, that's a possibility. And then Cole has to decide if he wants to make it a triple threat and lay down for Roddy or if he wants MJF to himself. So that is an interesting route we can go. Being Tony Khan, I give it about a 25% chance that's the route that it goes.
Yeah.
I think we're going to end up, what I worry is going to happen, we're going to end up with the triple threat, and Roddy's going to turn on Adam Cole for some reason, and we're going to stumble through the explanation.
I don't feel like we have to stumble, though, because since Adam Cole came back, his focus hasn't really been with them. Mm-hmm. So why couldn't we just make that the story as to why he turned on Adam Cole?
Okay.
Like, you literally turned your back on us, and we were there for you before. We were your family, and you turned your back on us. I feel like that's a really simple. I even say, I'm like, I think they're going to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That does make sense.
Yeah.
You're right. Now, will AEW tell it that way? If they're doing the continuity that they're doing for the Wheeler Yuta stuff and the Christian Cage stuff, yeah, they might tell that story. But AEW can be very Jekyll and Hyde sometimes.
Yeah.
But I like the Death Rider stuff. Moxley works as just a straight-up killer because the dude looks like the most intense.
And I like Marina Shafir now. I never liked her before. Mm-hmm. She was so boring to me.
That's how I know, when I'm watching wrestling with you, that's how I know that a story's working, because a wrestler that you were indifferent to, you've now cared about.
Well, even whenever she was WWE, like, I thought in her little faction that she was with Shayna Baszler and whoever the other girl was.
Uh-huh.
What was that other girl's name?
Jessamine Duke.
Yes, whenever they were together, I thought they were so boring.
They were just like the lesser Ronda Rousey clones.
Yes, and then with AEW, she had the really boring music, and then they had her with Nyla Rose, which I like Nyla Rose, but she was still so boring still. Mm-hmm. And then they were with Vicky Guerrero for a little for Guerrera for a little bit.
Yeah.
And that did make her a little bit more interesting, but then Vicky became Vicky.
Yeah.
And like,
I tell you what Marina Shafir is right now to me. I think, and AEW doesn't get many one-ups on WWE, but I think in this case, I think they're doing much better right now presenting Marina Shafir as the, let's go with the phrase they use, the baddest woman on the planet. I much buy more that Marina Shafir is going to kill me than Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, because Ronda Rousey, she just moved really quickly, but she looked stupid doing the quick move, so it was like, you're not a threat. I could just like, and you'd be off-balanced because you're like moving so quickly. Marina Shafir, she looks like she wants to kill you.
Yeah. Her and Mox together is a great combo, and you don't see that much with the man-woman combo. Usually the man wrestles, and the woman is like a distraction, or, back in the older days, the eye candy for everybody.
She's not eye candy. She doesn't dress seductively. She doesn't dress sexy. No,
she dresses like she just left the gym and she's going to go kill someone.
Yeah, and I like that Moxley kind of like, she's like the final say for him. He's like, I'm going to do this, and she's like, go.
You can tell a lot of this was built to help Marina Shafir get over.
It worked.
And it's worked, because she gets great reactions now. Yeah. And she's such a shithead out there. She's knocking it out of the park. So kudos to Marina Shafir for just absolutely crushing it ever since she got with Moxley.
Yeah. Moxley needs to team up with, they're not even in the same company, but maybe make Raquel Rodriguez not so damn boring. Even as a heel,
That's
she's
the next project.
Boring.
Yeah. And, man, what about the luck of Rhea Ripley? Like, Rhea Ripley keeps getting accidentally hurt anytime she goes near Liv Morgan.
I know. And Liv Morgan, she's never hurt. She doesn't really hurt anybody else except for Rhea.
This Rhea-Liv feud is never going to end because we're always going to have real-life injuries that we have to have retribution for in story. Yeah. And I'm just like, I like Rhea and I like Liv, but I couldn't want two people further away from each other right now than those two.
I'm still okay with them. I would really, I remember how much I hated seeing Bailey and Bianca fighting each other. That's still, I'd rather see Liv and Rhea more than those two.
Oh, man.
Fight.
Oh, man.
They fought, yeah.
It's been almost as long. It's been just about as long.
I'd still rather see Rhea and Liv fight than Bianca and Bailey.
That's fair. That went on. The Bianca damage control stuff went on a long
At least with this
time.
one, we get breaks because Rhea keeps getting hurt.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess you're right about that.
Yeah.
I guess so. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. Like I said, not a ton happened. There were some significant things, but overall, not a ton. Plus, if we tell you everything, it gives you no incentive to go watch the show, so go watch the show. If you want everything, that's what Simon Miller's for. But anyway, we will be back next week to cover the Road to War Games. Full Gear is coming up as well. I wouldn't swear to it, but I think War Games is the weekend after Full Gear. So I think Full Gear is the 23rd. War Games is either the week before or the week after. I don't remember which. But I love me those Saturday WWE PLEs. I love the Saturday, man. Starting at 7 o'clock on Saturday is great. I do too. It's great.
Yeah.
AEW starting 8 on a Sunday, and their shows are like 4 hours.
Like, my Sunday nights are filled with anticipating what my Monday is going to be like.
Yeah.
I can't do that if I'm watching wrestling until it's way past my bedtime. So then I have trouble sleeping because I didn't have time to think out my Monday.
Okay, fair enough.
AEW, you gotta think about my mental health. I know you don't know me.
Yeah,
you gotta think about my mental health.
AEW, you have a very wide fan base, but think of Susan's bedtime, I guess. But find us on the socials. Married with Wrestling on Facebook, here on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel. Make sure you hit the bell so that way you get notified when we put up a new video. Especially with us, as our schedule is kind of very wishy-washy. It gets sporadic sometimes, so make sure you're hitting that bell so that way you do know when we decided to do a video, it pops up. But with that being said, find some wrestling you like, enjoy it. There's plenty of it out there to pick from. And we will see you guys next time.
Later.